if I told you that one of the most idolized characters in Naruto was never truly a hero, and that much of what fans accept as absolute truth only exists because the anime tried to justify decisions that simply do not align with what was shown at the beginning of the story? Was Itachi Uchiha really the silent martyr who sacrificed everything for peace? Or did the narrative try to save a character who was originally created to be a villain? From his very first appearance, Itachi is presented as a cold, calculating, and extremely cruel antagonist. Someone who exterminated his own clan without showing remorse and spared his brother only to feed hatred and the desire for revenge. This is not a theory. It is exactly what the character does and says. He openly states that he spared Sasuke so he would grow consumed by resentment. And at no point early on is there any clear sign that this was part of a noble plan or a heroic sacrifice. The real problem begins when, later on, Naruto tries to rewrite the meaning of these actions, turning Itachi into an anti-hero, someone who dirted his hands to protect the village and prevent a greater war. But when you revisit the events calmly, this explanation simply does not hold up, because the character's actions directly contradict this new image the story tries to impose. Let's talk about the point most fans ignore. Itachi tortured Sasuke twice. And this was not symbolic or brief torture, it was extreme psychological torture, using Tsukuyomi to force his own brother to relive the clan massacre for 72 hours inside his mind. When Sasuke was still a child, emotionally vulnerable, and as if that were not enough, Itachi repeats the same act years later, when Sasuke was already mentally unstable. And here an unavoidable question arises. What kind of hero needs to destroy his own brother's mind to fulfill a plan? The most common argument is that Itachi wanted to make Sasuke stronger, but that does not work. Because trauma is not a training method, Naruto never shows that extreme suffering creates healthy growth. On the contrary, everything we see in Sasuke is an escalation of hatred, isolation, paranoia, and destructive obsession. Exactly the opposite of what someone who supposedly wanted to protect the world should cause. If Itachi wanted to create a defender of the village, he ended up creating its greatest threat. This is where the biggest contradiction of the story appears. Naruto tries to sell Itachi as an anti-hero, but even an anti-hero acts with some level of internal coherence. He does questionable things, but with a clear and functional purpose. The problem is that Itachi's actions are not just questionable, they are counterproductive. He claims to love his brother, but everything he does pushes Sasuke deeper into hatred, isolation, and extreme decisions. Another point that is rarely discussed is Itachi's relationship with the Hidden Leaf Village, because when the truth comes out, he accepts all the blame alone for a political decision made by the village leaders, and still blindly defends that system, the same system that ordered the massacre of his own clan. And here the narrative tries to turn submission into virtue, as if obeying a morally wrong order were automatically noble, when in reality it only reinforces that Itachi never truly questioned the system that destroyed his family. And this leads to one of the most controversial opinions. Itachi was created to be a villain. Everything about his early construction points to that. The way he speaks, the way he manipulates Sasuke, the way he dismisses bonds, the way he acts toward Kakashi and Naruto, the way he aligns himself with the Akatsuki. None of that suggests a silent hero working in the shadows. This tragic layer only appears later, when Kishimoto decides to change the character's direction, whether because of popularity or narrative regret. But the result is clear. The story gains a hole that is hard to ignore. Because if Itachi was always good, then why torture Sasuke that way? Why never explain anything? Why not use less extreme methods? Why join the Akatsuki and help with plans that resulted in mass death? Why act with cruelty in certain scenes? And the most honest answer is simple. These actions were written when Itachi was still a villain, and later the story tried to reinterpret everything without rewriting the events. In the end, Naruto asks the audience to accept that extreme suffering was necessary, that lies were love and that torture was protection. And that works for many fans because Itachi is charismatic, powerful, and tragic. But when you separate charisma from narrative coherence, this image of a hero quickly collapses. Itachi was not a hero. At most he was a victim of the ninja system. And even then someone who made wrong choices and emotionally destroyed his own brother's life. Maybe this is the most uncomfortable truth of all. Itachi does not represent silent kindness. He represents a world that normalizes atrocities in the name of peace. And turning that into heroism may work emotionally, but narratively it leaves cracks the story never managed to close. And that is exactly why this debate is still alive today. And if you enjoy learning these hidden stories from the world of anime, follow the Shonen channel for more videos like this. Here we explore the hidden side of the anime that shaped generations. Now I want to know your opinion. Was Itachi a misunderstood hero or a villain the story tried to save later? Comment below because this debate always explodes.